We'll call the meeting to order and have a roll call by the Commission Secretary.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
The chair declares a quorum present to conduct a meeting, and we would first like to recognize Mr. Carl Gibson, who's visiting us. Where'd he go? There he is. From the OTA board. We're happy you're here, but we have a little reservation because you stole one of our best guys. And would like to recognize Tim Gatz as the new OTA director. Thank you, Carl. Also, you know, he tries to be anonymous, but he can't be. He tries to blend into the crowd, but forever Neil McCaleb will be famous. And we'd like to... Everybody knows Neil as former ODOT director, Secretary of Transportation, and the taking over at OTA until they stole Tim. But we could talk and talk about Neil, but we're going to be quiet because he doesn't want that, and we could never say enough about Secretary McCaleb. Also at this time, I'd like to recognize the director for
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It is a sad situation that we're this time. On May 18th, Gerald Gray, Delaware County crew was killed in the line. Gerald makes the 60th Well, let me start over, since the microphone wasn't on. It is sad that I stand at the podium today to recognize the fact that we lost another ODOT employee who was killed in the line of duty. Gerald Gray died on May 18th. Gerald was a part of our Delaware County crew and was working with the inmate crew for doing brush removal along State Highway 20. When a car left the highway and struck Gerald and killed him. Gerald is, as you visit with the crew, you can tell he's one of those kind of guys. He was everybody's friend. He kept everything lighthearted, yet very dedicated. He had worked for the department since 1998. He was 47 years old. His family dearly misses him. I know his mother especially misses him because he was helping take care of her. And I know his ODOT family, and especially the Delaware County crew, is missing him desperately. There were some people who, on the crew that, the inmate crew, that were very helpful to Gerald and tried everything they could to take care of him, and kept him alive until the first responders got there. And I'd like to recognize him if I could, Mr. Chairman. Sergeant Jason Lemons, inmates Corey McCarroll, Quentin Ross, Jerry Honey, Kenneth Coulter, and Stephen LeVere. All of those men jumped to rescue and help Gerald in his time of need after he was struck. And like I said, they were able to keep him conscious and alive until the first responders got there. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have a minute of silence for Gerald as we think about all of our workers who are working alongside the highways, both with the state, the county, and the city, who are dedicated to make this state a better place, and we need to dedicate ourselves to make their work zone and their work area a safe place. A moment of silence.
Certainly. Join the director.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, one thing I do want to note, and it is a very tight group that we work with here at the state of Oklahoma. There were 8 other agencies that reached out to us and offered their condolences, and there were 6 other DOTs from across the country that reached out to me to offer the condolences. We'll miss Gerald. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director. We'd also remember at this time that there are others affected by work zone safety. Those people that are driving that are affected, they're not causing the accidents. We need to all keep our heads up, our phones out of the way, and stay diligent when driving through work zones. At this time, we'll hear a motion for the approval of the minutes of the Transportation Commission meeting of May the 2nd, 2016.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll. Oh, I have to get out of that habit, won't I? Push your button. Motion passes. The consent docket is next, items 73 through 75. If there's any member of the commission that would like to pull an item on the consent docket out and talk about it separately, let it be known. If there are none, then we'll hear a motion for the consent docket.
Motion approved.
I have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Please vote. That motion passes. We'll move to item 76, which is a programming item. Mr. Tiegler, we'll wait your presentation.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Item 76 is our programming item. I have one this month. It's in Kay County. We request approval to program a project for vehicle repair damage to US 60. The estimated cost is $140,000 using state aid funds. The project can be ready for July 2016 letting, and the party responsible for the damage is known. Approval is recommended.
You've heard the recommendation. What's your pleasure for item number 76?
So moved for the pass.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll hear item number 77, the engineering contracts.
Thank you. Item 77, I have 3 parts this month. Part A is a statewide contract with on-demand aesthetic means and methods manual. Department has selected creative design resolutions to develop an aesthetic means and methods manual and write special provisions for aesthetic integration for our projects. Again, this is a project with creative design resolutions for a total not to exceed $550,000. 100% state funds are going to be used for this contract. Part B, McCurtain County in District 2. We've selected Jacobs Engineering to provide preliminary engineering and construction plans for US 259. This is for an amount not to exceed $1,286,100. We have 2 projects in the 8-year construction work plan. They are FY 2020 and FY 2022. And then finally, Part C, Oklahoma County District 4. We've selected MacArthur Associated Consultants to provide preliminary engineering for I-44 between May Avenue and I-235. This is for $1,937,470. Approval is recommended, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
You've heard the recommendation for item 77, the engineering contracts.
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Please vote.
I have a question.
Okay.
What was the May Avenue, the last one that you mentioned, Tim?
The preliminary engineering study for I-44 between May Avenue and 235 is known as the Belle Isle Bridge, that section of roadway.
And what are we looking
we're going to do an engineering study to, as you all know, we've had some construction in that area. We've had some structural repair of the bridge, and we've had issues with the joint rehab, or the joints, and salt and sand getting to the pier caps. So there's been a lot of work going on in that area. So this is a contract to look at what are we going to do in the future, maybe 15, 20 years from now. So we're going to do this engineering study, which includes several different areas of expertise. We're going to do a lot of geotech. We're going to do a lot of alignment studies, basically input from the public. So we're going to be looking at some options at what can we do with that section of roadway to make it better.
And are we going to look at that, the off-ramp, wherever that, you know
Yes,
what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, we have several locations, Northwest Expressway, there's Western Avenue, there's Classen. So we have several locations that we're going to be looking at for the traffic to come and go. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Continue voting. Motion passes. Item number 78 is engineering contract supplements.
I have 4 parts this month. Part A is a statewide bridge inspection with Burgess and Nyepel. This is the hands-on bridge inspection of our reinforced concrete box girders. This is for $75,000. Part B, statewide on-demand mobile LiDAR mapping. This is with CEC Corporation for an additional $500,000. Part C in Cherokee County, District 1. We have a supplement to perform preliminary engineering and final design plans for US 62 with Aguirre Fields for $34,925. And then finally, Part D, Tulsa County, Commission District 8. This is with EST for a supplement not to exceed of $16,900. This contract is also in the 8-year construction work plan in 2016. Your approval is recommended, and I'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
You've heard the presentation. What's your,
Motion for approval.
we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? I'll try to get that point in now. Hearing none, vote. Motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item is item number 79. It's the lettings. Mr. Atkins will make that presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, item 79 consists of the final August, the tentative September, and the tentative October 2016 bid openings, and the department recommends approval of item 79.
You've heard the presentation for item 79.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Commence voting. Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Atkins. Mr. Raymond will present the change orders less than 50,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'd like to present item 80, parts A through S. These represent the change orders on projects with a cumulative total of change orders of $50,000 or less. This item is presented for your information only. No action is necessary, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Unless someone has a question on the items 50,000 or less, Mr. Raymond will proceed to the items 50,000 or greater.
Thank you. I'd like to present item 81, parts A through Q. These represent the change orders on projects with a cumulative total of change orders greater than $50,000, and your approval is recommended.
You've heard-
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please commence your voting. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Raymond. Next is item number 82. It's the awards. Mr. Dels.
Morning, Commissioners. Item number 82 are recommendations from the May 19th bid opening. It is recommended that the following items from the letting referred to by call order be awarded. It's call orders 5, 10, 30, 40, with all alternates 50, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 140, 150, 155, 170, 173, 177, 180, 190, and 200. This concludes the recommendations for award, and your approval is requested.
You've heard the presentation. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 82.
We have a motion to approve item 82.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 83 is next. It's the 2017 Budget Work Program. And here she comes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. Agenda item 83 is for the fiscal year 2017 Budget Work Program. The department is required to submit the Budget Work Program to the Office of Management Enterprise Services in June of each year, which will provide budget authority for the upcoming fiscal year. In keeping with that process, the department is submitting for commission approval the fiscal year 2017 Budget Work Program in the amount of $1.4 billion. This is down from the beginning 2016 budget of $1.7 billion. This budget includes funding for the following programs: $1.2 billion for the highway program, $158 million for the county program, and $42 million for the rail program, and $24 million for the transit program. I will highlight some of the major expenses, major revenues, and cash impacts. And when I say cash impacts, I'm referring to a term you might be familiar with of repurposing of cash or revenue recapture in the governor's FY 2017 budget summary, which you have 2 copies of those. One of them's, they're both 8.5 by 11. In addition to my highlights, the director will go over in greater detail the impacts of revenue and cash repurposing on expenses in his presentation. Okay, starting with major expenditures included in the $1.4 billion. Highway program contains $656 million for construction, $47 million for right-of-way, $90 million for engineering contracts, and $160 million for the maintenance program. County program contains $151 million for construction, right-of-way, and engineering, and the rail program contains $38 million for improvements to rail safety programs. Moving on to agency major revenue sources. Included in the budget is the federal funding, starting off with our estimated amounts from FHWA in the amount of $570 million, which is relatively unchanged from 2016. Next, with respect to income tax collections, we would have anticipated $500 million going to the roads fund. However, $200 million will be transferred to fund part of the state's shortfall, bringing the available funding to $300 million. Filling that gap, we anticipate a $200 million bond issue to offset that transfer. The next major source of funding is the State Transportation Fund. We anticipate receiving $154.9 million, and this is a $30 million decrease from FY 2016 in the amount of $184 million, which is a 16% reduction. And this is also a $50 million reduction from the amount estimated. The last major category of revenue is motor vehicle collections. This revenue source provides $120 million for the county curb program and $6 million for the waste station revolving fund. The next section I mentioned earlier, I'll be going over is the cash impacts to the beginning cash balances due to the state's budget shortfall. The cash impacts are as follows. Within the highway program, the highway construction and maintenance fund will be reduced by $73 million. and the waste station revolving fund will be reduced by $12.5 million. Within the rail program, the rail maintenance revolving fund will be reduced by $26.6 million, and the passenger rail fund will be reduced by $5 million. And within the county program, the curb fund will be reduced by $50 million, and the county equipment fund will be receiving a $1 million reduction. Last but not least, budget revisions. It's anticipated that we will have budget revisions throughout the year, and typically in the fall, we will bring you any of the fourth quarter redistributions and any of the federal or state carryovers as of June 30th. Those revisions will be submitted to the Commission for approval, review and approval at the time that they're needed. The department requests or recommends approval of this budget totaling $1.4 billion.
You've heard the recommendation and the presentation for the 17 budget. What's your pleasure?
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. The motion passes. Keep going.
Okay. Agenda item 84 is FY 2016 budget revision, and it has two parts. Part A, there's a second sentence there you need to just mark through, the one about the $1 million. That one's not needed. We're requesting to increase the federal share of the county program by $6.2 million for unbudgeted federal revenues. Part B is a request to increase the budget by $4.8 million for unbudgeted federal revenues to be used for the Intelligent Transportation System. And the department requests and recommends approval of this item.
You've heard the presentation for the budget revisions.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to approve the revisions.
Second.
A second as requested. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, or vote. Hard to get out of those habits. That motion passes. Thank you, and the director and everybody in Shelley's department. I know it was trying times to try to figure out what's best for the state, what's best for the department, and you guys responded. You were early in your response. You worked hard and didn't get everything you wanted, but nobody did. But thank you guys for your hard work in trying to accommodate the budget shortfall without causing major problems for operations. Thank you very much. The next item is item number 85, consideration and possible approval of the new turnpike routes contained in the Driving Forward Initiative. Mr. Director Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Item 85 is the presentation and explanation of proposed routes for the new turnpikes. Last month, Secretary McCaleb offered a great explanation to the commission to kind of set the tone for this approval. He went over the proposed locations and the reasons why. And I'd like to take just a moment to talk about the reasons why again. The reasons why is financial. The department for the last 20 or 25 years has been working to come up with a solution for the congestion and the safety issues we have on I-40 and I-35. It's a situation that we now find ourselves that we have to do something, and the department is just not in a position to do so, and will not be in a position to do so in the foreseeable future. Where we once found a need to expand I-35 in downtown Oklahoma City toward Norman, the reason for that was because we had 80,000 vehicles just south of the river on I-35. So we began the expansion and widened it to 6 lanes. Today we have more than twice that amount. We're at 129 to 150,000 vehicles a day. we have no place to go. So we have to go out. We're much like any other big city, we now have to go out. If we were to try to expand I-35 again, realizing that we started this expansion of I-35 in 1979 and we're still not complete with it, it will take at least that long, and we will lose the reason for the expansion. It would also take out businesses that are vital to downtown Oklahoma City, Moore, Norman. So it's something that we have to come up with another alternative, and the alternative, as I referred to earlier, was looking out, and we started looking out 20 years ago. But the Turnpike Authority has come to the rescue again, much as they have in the past when we needed a high-speed, safe passage between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. The Turner Turnpike was built in the 50s. The Will Rogers shortly after that. So much of this is driven off of safety, and it's important to keep that fact in mind. In the area of I-35 between I-240 and I-40, there's been 6,600 accidents and 33 fatalities in the last 10 years. That's something that we just can't tolerate. We have to come up with that better solution, and this is the better solution. Yours and my obligation in this statutorily, as identified in Title 69, Section 1701, is to approve these routes only to the extent that I'm telling you that we don't have a route planned in the next several years. And you also, I'm telling you that we need your approval to allow the Turnpike Authority to make that connection at I-40 east of Oklahoma City and State Highway 152 in southwest part of Oklahoma City. So our obligation, our collective obligations, is simply to ratify that we don't have any conflicts in our programming and that we need that connection. As Mr. Chairman, as you identified, we have Director Gatz, Secretary McCaleb, Carl Gibson from the OTA Authority, and other staff members here from the Turnpike Authority. Should you have any questions that you would like to ask them about the proposed routes? Mr. Chairman, I would recommend this item for approval.
You've heard the presentation, and we have others to speak to it here. Do we have a motion?
So, Mr. Director, what you're saying is that at this point, ODOT has no plans for any kind of roadways in the corridor that OTA is planning on building these facilities in. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner. We have no plans. We wish we had plans, but we don't have plans. With the budget and the amount of financial resources that we've been afforded, we're doing all that we can to keep the rest of the system up and going. So adding capacity to that size of a project is impossible for us.
Fire away.
So we're affirming that there's no plan, and with that affirmation, then the Turnpike Authority takes the necessary steps, whatever they need to do next. But our job by statute is to affirm that we have no plans and will allow the connection to the interstate or state highways or whatever if that gets completed, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And I'm going to, if I might, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to talk to the guys in the booth, so to speak. If you could throw up that PowerPoint for me, I'd appreciate it. Let's see if this works.
Okay, guys, we need the PowerPoint you've got keyed up.
And if you could go to the next slide. This is the This is the ADT count, and where I was referencing the I-35 location at I-40, when we were talking about 79,000 vehicles a day, caused us to want to expand to 6-lane. We're now at 140,000, and we're not through with our expansion yet. And if you look out west, we're 152. The Kilpatrick Turnpike goes through I-40 and stubs right there. It's going to connect down to 152. And you can see the traffic counts on I-40. There's already several people have identified that they will be using those routes to keep from going through downtown Oklahoma City. One of the things that we are going to do in our 8-year plan rebalancing is we're going to seek ways to accelerate our I-40 6-laning expansion in eastern Oklahoma County. We think we can get that done to accommodate the opening of the eastern route. Would you show the next slide, please? There's the proposed route, generally speaking. And the next slide. This is a closer-up view of I-40 and the Kilpatrick Turnpike. You can see the traffic counts on I-40 at 126,000, 110,000. We are going to, excuse me, the department is going to have to rebuild the intersection of I-40 and I-44. So in as much as we can keep traffic off of that location by routing them around, we will do that. And this will help with that tremendously. We're not looking to move a lot of cars or vehicles off of I-40 simply because of the growth that we see there. So our hope is that we're able to minimize any future growth. If I could show the next slide just for the benefit of the commissioners so they could see generally where the route is on the southwest loop. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Does anybody else on the commission have a question of Director Patterson? Director Gatz, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, first and foremost, I would say thank you for your congratulations and your kind comments this morning. The Turnpike Authority certainly is appreciative of your consideration of this item and really values the support of the department as we work together to try to provide the safest and highest functioning transportation system that we can for the state of Oklahoma. And as Director Patterson pointed out, certainly have Secretary McCaleb and staff members here if you have questions that we might be able to answer. But thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you, Director Gatz. Secretary McCaleb, would you like to give a certain historic perspective to how long this work's been going on?
About all good for is historic perspectives.
I was by no means implying that.
Well, I have been around for a while. I took a ride on the Turner Turnpike before it was opened in 1953, and it was built because there was a critical need for a road direct between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. The State Highway Commission at that time had neither the funds nor the ability to build that road. So the legislature authorized advance funding through the sale of bonds to be repaid from the income from the system, from that road. That was the first in the system. And we started the Oklahoma Turnpike system and built that road. Subsequent to that, we wanted to extend what became I-44 from Tulsa onto the Missouri line, but there was a doubt that it would stand on its own base individually. So a vote was submitted to the people of Oklahoma a referendum to create a turnpike system where revenues could be cross-pledged. That was approved by the voters of the state in 1954, I think. And we have expanded that system and provided excellent transportation facilities to Lawton, to southeastern portion of the state, to the more central portion of the state, and most recently in the urban environments that we would not have ever been able to fund. In fact, the Kilpatrick was built on right-of-way that was purchased by ODOT 20 years before, and they couldn't ever fund the construction of the road because of the limitations on the funding for the ODOT. OTA bought that right-of-way from ODOT. ODOT used that money to finish the Hefner Parkway, and we have an excellent system out there today. The revenues on the traffic on that right now are 150% of the projected 2020 traffic. The bottom line in all this is that the Turnpike Authority provides an advanced funding mechanism to be paid from revenues generated by the road users at their discretion. Nobody forces you to drive on a turnpike. And we, again, through the Driving Forward program, are going to address a critical problem. We've never had a north-south corridor on the east side of the county, nor have we completed the Kilpatrick loop from I-40 south and east towards I-35. This will accomplish that. I've been privileged to have been present and served when we built 6 of these turnpikes. And I'm pleased that I've had an opportunity to participate in the advancement of the Driving Forward program. I certainly recommend your approval of this motion, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Secretary McCaleb.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Thank
your
you for the
perspective.
privilege.
It's very unique. Are there other senior staff members from OTA that would have something to offer that we have not heard? Okay, at this time, I know there's others that have differing views. And is there someone, have you guys organized yourself and informed one person that would be prepared at this time to make some comments?
I would like to make a comment.
Okay, we have one.
I'd like to nominate him.
Well, y'all have to figure that out between yourselves. If you can quickly figure out between yourselves someone to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, now, is that everyone that wanted to be recognized? Okay, looks like we have a consensus. Would you introduce yourself and
Sir.
that sort of thing so we'll know
Thank
who
you,
you
sir.
are?
Thank you for having me. My name is Paul Crouch. I live at 44th and Luther in New Orleans. And I don't think it's any secret to any one of you who's standing before me today, or I'm standing before you, that we are in opposition to this turnpike, this projected turnpike for East Oklahoma County. And for a lot of reasons. One of the primary reasons that we're against this is because we don't believe the traffic estimates that were put forth by the OTA. We don't believe that for 1 minute. That was actually, you can go back to the May 1st edition of the Daily Oklahoman, front page above the fold, and you can see the number. Up to 63% inflation rates for the traffic estimates and the monetary profits that come off of the turnpikes. So that worries me. That worries me tremendously, because you're not just talking about moving fence posts here, you're talking about moving people, and you're talking about doing away with their homes, and you're talking about doing away with their property. Before I ever made a move, if I was in a position of authority, before I ever made a move to approve something of that nature, I would say these are real people. These are their homes. I don't know if any of you sitting on this board today in this panel have plans for Christmas this year. I hope you have plans. I hope you entertain the thought of having your folks come to the old home place and have your Christmas holiday together, because the people who stand to get their houses removed and their property taken, they're not going to have those memories anymore. As a matter of fact, they're already worrying about where they are going to hold anything. You know, just because you come and you offer somebody money for their property and you offer it and they have no choice but to take it because eminent domain is going to cause them to lose. They don't have the funding to come up and lawyer up like the OTA has. Some of them have gone out and tried to get lawyers, but unfortunately, the OTA has most of those on retainer. So we don't have no option. So I would tell you this. I don't believe that all the alternatives have been looked at. We've offered up to take a look at 102, take a look at 177, and they will come up and they will spin this to say, oh, well, this existing road, we can't do anything about that. You can do something about that. If you look at that situation and you go 5 to 7 miles from their proposed route, 5 to 7 miles east, they already have roads that are clear that are going that way. But no, they have come up with this idea that they're going to take homes and property from people, and damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, we're going to do this. So we don't feel like we've had a voice in any of this. Mr. McCaleb spoke to the fact that this was a vote of the people to do this cross-funding. Yes, 70 years ago. 70 years ago, that was the vote. But that's not the vote today. It's almost as if though it's intentional. It's almost as if though it's by design that we're going to do this, and you can't do anything about it, people in eastern Oklahoma County. So we do take great exception to that. You've seen us. We've had 3 Capitol rallies. We've had a rally in Choctaw. We've done everything that we can. We've gone before our state senate. We've gone before the state representatives. And you know what? It's almost as if though they're afraid to do anything because they're afraid of repercussions that's going to happen to their careers or maybe their political aspirations in the future. That worries me because I don't care if you're one person standing up for what is right, then it's the right thing to do. You may stand alone, but it's the right thing to do. I would impress upon you that these are real people. These are real people. Please look at us, all of us, in that regard. I served for 24 years in the United States Air Force. I've been deployed to you name a place. I've never been to the Antarctica, but we don't have much there. But I've slept in almost every desert that you could name in hoping that I could come back one day to my home state, Oklahoma, and I could build a place where me and my wife could retire and we could enjoy the country, enjoy the beauty, enjoy the non-light pollution, to enjoy the fresh air. And now, nobody told me 2.5 years ago when I built that house that there was going to be a turnpike running through this thing, but I think they knew. I think they knew. So sometimes when you look at this thing, it's almost as if though the people who are in the throes of this that are about to get their homes taken are the lucky ones. They're the fortunate ones. Almost. You think that. Because the ones that have to look and stare at this thing and see it, smell it, hear it, taste it every day for the rest of our lives, then we're stuck. But I have pity for those who are losing their property because I would tell you, it's really, well, they're going to pay them. They're going to give them compensation. Well, so far what we've talked about here, we've talked about how these inflated traffic estimates and inflated financial gain estimates have come to light. So how do you do that? How do you do that and say, we're going to use these and we're still going to take your property and you know that these are wrong, but you're still going to do it? I worry about that because back in the day, back in 1950 or 49, whenever they first started talking about building the Turner Turnpike, and then it opened in 1953, okay? So they said, okay, you've heard the same thing I've heard, all right? When it's paid for, we'll drive on it for free. We're not driving on it for free, are we? And so there are 10 more. There are 9 more, so a total of 10 turnpikes now. And not a one of those we have to pay to drive on those. And they've already announced, it's come out that they're going to raise the rates on those 16%. So Oklahomans are going to have to drive on the roads. I've gone out and done some research on this. It's not just Oklahoma. If you go and you check out the great state of Pennsylvania, they're dealing with this same thing too, and the people are tired of it. They're absolutely sick of it because there is no plan to ever stop raising the rates. There's absolutely no plan of ever stopping the tolls. We're going to live with that. So basically from what I've been told, I've contacted the state auditor, I've contacted the state attorney general, and so I got a letter from the state auditor's office here the other day, and he said, I've got to tell you, Paul, that's frustrating for all of us when an agency, all the other agencies within the state government, they cannot incur debt. But yet OTA can go out and they can incur debt because they can sell bonds to private investors and allow them to make money. And these people, some of these people that are sitting in the room here today, they are losing their homes. They're losing their property. I tell you, if it was you, would you look at it differently? I would. I would definitely look at it differently because there are alternate routes for this. This is not the only route. It's actually not the best route. So I heard talk just now of this is going to cause better traffic safety. I would put before you today here that better roads don't increase safety. Safe drivers increase safety. All the time that we've been trying to fight this thing, in the month of April, there were, I think, 4 fatalities on the Turner Turnpike. So that doesn't sound very safe to me.
Are you about done?
I'm about done,
Okay.
sir, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate every one of you, and I would ask you to consider this from the bottom of your hearts. I'm serious. When you think about what's about to happen here, people are going to lose their homes. There's no place planned for them to go move to. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
We certainly appreciate your comments and appreciate you guys coming and having one individual speak to the issues that concern you. Director Patterson will recognize you again for some additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate all the comments I've heard today. We've been presented with a request from the Turnpike Authority to allow them to move forward and to acknowledge, as Commissioner Overland said, that we have no conflicts and that we need to make the connections with I-40 and State Highway 152. I do understand what each one of the parties have talked about. It should be recognized again that the department does not have the financial resources available to them to make the additional routes under the purview of the Department of Transportation.
Based on the length of time these have been under consideration over years, changing conditions, having confidence in OTA's planning and the Department of Transportation's planning, understanding the limited funding available really at both places, and also being sensitive to the problems that the right of eminent domain causes. I do have confidence in the planning that's gone on, and I would make a motion that we approve this item.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
One comment or question, kind of on that point. As I recall, and this may be more of a question for Secretary Michaela, but as I recall, back when there was planning and discussion around the Kilpatrick, as I recall, that was going to be a full loop, and I'm going way back into the early 90s. Number one, that may or may not be correct, and you can, if you recall, Neil, you can say yay or nay on that. But I mention that because this has been something that has been considered and thought was a thing that should be done, way back in the early 90s. But there were reasons why it didn't happen then. I don't know why. I think I was in college at that time. So, but anyhow, my point being that this has kind of been a long time coming, and so I would maybe throw that out to you.
When we started to build what became the Kilpatrick Turnpike, it went from the Eastern Turner Gate around to I-40. And we didn't have the bonding capacity, but to build it it's built 9 miles of it in the Bellman administration, and the follow-up to complete it to I-40 in the Keating administration. There was not a definitive route south of I-40, but the Oklahoma Central ACOG, Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, and ODOT did a study on where the route should be, and we're following approximately on the route that study came up with, subsequent to extensive public hearings and quite a bit of debate, because it connects the Kilpatrick and I-40 to 152 going to the airport and then over to I-35. That's my recollection.
Thank you for recognizing me. I just want to make sure I am crystal clear. We're not, our vote today is to affirm that we have no projects in that corridor, and we're approving any connection that may occur if the turnpike is constructed. I don't know that we're approving any specific design or anything else here today. We're just doing those two things. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. To your point, I think that's a great term.
The final design, corridor, or engineering, or even the pathway hasn't been done yet. There's a pretty good idea, but it's not final.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Please vote. This motion passes. I think it's a historic moment for OTA and ODOT to use the limited resources we have. And I really see it as a move not to go backwards, because we're continually fighting the battle of being behind the curve. And hopefully this is another action that the state takes that will give us a leg up, keep us competitive, and keep us going in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the support, because we're at our wits' end on a solution, and this is our solution.
Thank you. We are now ready for the director's report.
Mr. Chairman, I have several items I wanted to bring to your attention. One is, earlier, Tim Tegler was up here talking about the Belle Isle Bridge, and that is moving forward with that engineering contract to do that study on how we can take care of the Belle Isle area. You may recall when we ran into our last problems on the Belle Isle Bridge, I mentioned to you that our goal one day would be to put the Belle Isle area on the ground. And at the time, I believe it was Steve Jacoby, our bridge engineer, showed him a photograph from when the bridge opened in 1979, 78, and it showed that the lake was still there. And so that's why we even have a bridge there, because the Belle Isle Lake was in place. If the Belle Isle Lake wasn't there, we would not have put a bridge. The lake's gone. We're going to look at putting the roadway on the ground. Now, does that mean it's a mounded pile of dirt? Probably, because we'll have to get over several intersections and interchanges. But nonetheless, we're trying to get the bridge out of service. And I really appreciate your support in letting Tim move forward with that. A bridge that we recently opened is one that was problematic for us for a while, and it was the bridge on State Highway 99, US 377, south of Tishomingo, reopened on Memorial Day. The significance of that bridge, it was in our 8-year plan, and we had it scheduled for 2018, but in the floods of last year, it was underwater so long, and it became damaged. And so we were able to accelerate that project and got the bridge back open to service. Really appreciate the contractor, Overland Construction, for moving so quickly, and likely you're going to see a change order for an incentive payment that they are due, and the patience of the citizens of Tishomingo as they went through that process. Another thing I want to just touch on is a piece of legislation that was signed into law recently about speed limits. That bill simply removed the maximum speed limit in the statutes. There are some thinking that now that the speed limit maximum is gone, that we can raise the speeds to whatever. We're still going to go through our engineering studies. We're going to do all the things that we have to do to provide safe passage. The legislature is not getting involved in the speed limits. They just simply removed the maximum. It wasn't an ODOT request bill. In fact, we would have preferred to have left the maximums there, but the decision was not to be that way, and so we will continue to do what we do. But in case you're asked by people in your district, it doesn't mean we're going to run out and raise a bunch of speed limits. We're missing the maximum now. Shelley was up here earlier talking about the budget and what the 2017 budget starts off with is $1.4 billion. Last year was $1.6 billion, $1.7 billion when we started off. So it's down, and the chairman talked about that, how the department helped with that. If I could have I've got 3 slides I want to show you, commissioners, that Shelley did a wonderful job portraying that. If I could have the first slide up on the prompters, on the monitors, excuse me. But as we went through the legislative process, one of the things that often gets talked about is motor fuel tax. It is our long-standing source of revenues. And this first slide depicts what was going on with motor fuel collections in 2014. And as you can tell, all of the money, even the non-highway uses, is going to something dealing with transportation. But as we look at the next slide for the estimate for 2017, you can see that this being the second year in a row that we're going to lose some of that motor fuel tax as it was moved to special cash or general revenue. As Shelley indicated, there is an additional portion of motor fuel tax going to special cash in 2017. The $50 million difference there, the Board of Equalization certified motor fuel tax at $205 million was to come to the department for 2017, and we're going to end up with 154, so that's a $50 million difference. If I could have the next slide, please. This is a summation of the Senate Bill 1616 and what it meant to the department. Shelley talked about some of this, but if I could just go through this rather quickly. The Way Station Revolving Fund is going to lose $12.5 million. The Passenger Rail Fund is going to lose $5 million. And jumping down to the Rail Maintenance Revolving Fund, the 210 fund, that $26.6 million is actually the seed money that was provided to the department back in the late 70s, early 80s to buy the abandoned railroads. So we thought it best that that be returned to the state for their use, since we made a profit, significant profit on the last sale. And we can continue with our efforts to provide maintenance to our state-owned railroads and to continue with our $100 million effort to improve crossings. But as you look at the other items, the $50 million that I just discussed and the $73 million cash transfer, or Shelley likes to call it repurposing money, I have another term for it, but the $73 million being taken from the 310 fund, and then the $200 million cash transfer that comes out of the roads fund. So that is, all of those will affect the highway program. Now, we're being offset with the opportunity to issue bonds through the Capital Improvement Authority for $200 million. But the department will be responsible for making the debt service for the next 15 to 20 years on that $200 million. As we were so afraid of, there was much discussion, and I know we talked to the commissioners about what might happen if There were efforts to take the $59 million additional that we receive each year or somehow lower the cap in the roads fund from 575, but all of those discussions went away, and this is what we were left with. And as the chairman talked about, we went forward early, offered up a $300 million solution to the overall budget situation of a $1.3 billion shortfall. And it was our way that we could participate and kind of guide where the money was taken from. The last item I want to talk about, I do want to, one other thing on the budget. We have made significant improvements and investments in our highway system in the last 10 years because of the legislature's efforts to provide us with additional money. And I have discussed with you on numerous occasions that going forward, no matter what happens, we're going to keep our maintenance budget, our asset preservation budget in place. We have to do that. We have constructed so many new bridges, it would be irresponsible for us to now not maintain those bridges, not maintain those new roadways. And so we're going to do that. So any impact that we have on the budget reduction will be affected in the 8-year plan. This afternoon, we're going to begin our meetings to rebalance the 8-year plan that we will visit with you during the summer and eventually bring to you hopefully in September at the commission meeting. But we don't know what projects will be affected. I'm confident that all the projects that are in the current 8-year plan will remain in the plan. It's just we may have to delay them a little bit, depending on what priorities have done to us and what costs have done to us. The last thing I want to mention is our work zone safety program, and I really appreciate the support the commission has given us to go out and not do 1 week, but do 2 months. It's been identified that that's a monumental effort, and I want to thank Terry Angier and the NPR staff for everything they did. They went into some places we never thought about going, with a Facebook page, and we had a lot of hits on our Facebook page. We did our PSAs that we had on YouTube. We had our Work Zone Wednesdays, where we put messages up on the big board. More than 6 million people saw those. We're going to continue some of these efforts. I'm loving the Work Zone Wednesday thing. I hope we can keep the Facebook page in place because we have to continue to make an effort to change behaviors. Additionally, we had the honor wall come to Oklahoma City and Tulsa at Penn Square Mall and Woodland Hills Mall, and thank you to Simon Properties for allowing us to do that and to make our presence known and have media events at those locations. It was gratifying, if you will, to see people walk by the wall where 1,400 names are of people who have died in work zones. And then to recognize at one time 59, now 60 employees who have died in the line of service. There was a couple of other fellows that I want to recognize, and it was Chuck May and Michael Dean. You guys saw the PSAs, and those were the 2 guys with the great voices. I wish I had that radio voice like they do, and they did a great job in putting that together. But throughout all this, and you have our new pins on, and every ODOT employee is going to get one of those pins, and we're going to pass those out to anybody that'll wear them because we want to make that awareness known. Because during our 2-month effort, just in the month of May, there were 2 people killed in work zones in Oklahoma. Bobby White, a school teacher from Owasso, was killed on US 169 just by our Bird Creek construction area. and then, of course, Gerald Gray. Both of those folks left a family behind, left colleagues behind. Bobby White left a lot of students behind. And all because somebody wasn't paying attention in the work zone. But I can't tell you how much I, again, appreciate your support, our effort to make an impact on the driving public. Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You've heard the director's report. Does a commissioner have anything they want further from the director, any comments to make? Thank you, Director Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's nothing else to come before the commission, we'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Have a motion? Second, any discussion? Please vote. We're adjourned.